Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuffs and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we're going to talk about things like The Throat, a reading from Peter Straub's excellent book, of course. The fact that I am back to work now, maybe some of you out there are as well. We'll talk about that a little bit. Other signs that maybe the thaw is happening, that things are sort of, kind of, maybe, kinda, I already said kinda, getting back to normal-ish out there. I mean, not really, but there are signs. I have signs, I'll tell you about those. We're also going to talk about Peterson, My Mixture 965 Revisited. I just recorded the revisited episode for Peterson, My Mixture 965. And then we will also do hashtag askstuffandthings. I have some good questions here. We always need more though, so remember to tweet your questions at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings, or you can get in touch with me via Patreon, things like that. But first, as I mentioned, a reading from Peter Straub's The Throat. What is this? Peter Straub. Oh, it's a nice little note from Peter. I forgot I put this in the book. Let us continue now. We are into chapter 4. Where was I in chapter 4? Did I mark chapter 4? Oh, here we go. Okay. Peter Straub. I forgot the intro. Peter Straub is an award-winning author. He is a good friend, a viewer of the Stuff and Things channel, and he has also given us permission to read from his book, The Throat, every week. And now I will continue. To my surprise, Pirate got to his feet, walked in my direction across the shed, and put his hand around a glass left on the desk. He poured an inch of whiskey into it and gave the glass to DeMaestro. Then he went back to his old place. When I first came to this effing paradise, DeMaestro said, still carefully regarding his invisible point in space, there must have been no more than 2-3 kids out there. Now there's almost 10. He drank about half of what was in his glass. I think all of them kind of look like Red Dog Atwater. This was the name of our CO. Scoot stopped humming. "Oh, S," he said. "Oh, sweet, jumpin' Jehoshaphat on a pole." "Listen to that hillbilly," DeMaestro said. Scoot was so excited that he was pulling on his ponytail. I hope Peter will forgive me the slight alterations I have to make to the text. They finally got him. He's here. The gull-dern son of a bee is dead." "It's a friend of Scoot's," Pirate said. Scoot was kneeling beside one of the body bags, running his hands over it and laughing. "Close friend," said Pirate. "He nearly got in and out before I could pay my respects," said Scoot. He unzipped the bag in one quick movement and looked up, challenging DeMaestro to stop him. That smell that set us apart came from the bag. DeMaestro leaned over and peered down into the bag. "So that's him." Scoot laughed like a happy baby. "Ha ha ha! This makes my effing month," and I almost missed him. I knew he'd get wasted someday, so I kept checking the names, but today's the day he comes in. "He's got that pricky little nose," DeMaestro said. "He's got those pricky little eyes." Picklock stirred in the truck bed, sat up, rubbed his eyes, and grinned. Like Scoot, Picklock was generally cheered by fresh reminders that he was in Vietnam. The door at the far end of the shed opened, and I turned around to see Attica saunter in. He was wearing sunglasses and a clean shirt, and he brought with him a sharp, clean smell of soap. "Chest wound," DeMaestro said. "He died slow, at least," said Scoot. "That Havens?" Atticus' saunter picked up a little speed. He tilted his head and tipped an imaginary hat as he passed me. "I found Havens," Scoot said. There was awe in his voice. "He almost got through." "Who checked his tag?" Attica asked, and stopped moving for an instant. DeMaestro slowly turned towards me. "On your feet, underdog." And there you are, another reading from Peter Straub's The Throat. More next week. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the little rundown, I am back to work. In Washington, the governor has slightly loosened some of the restrictions and has decided that construction can go ahead. And as I mentioned, I do construction. None of the jobs that we were working previously were considered essential, and so we weren't able to work for several weeks, but we're back to work now. And working sucks, doesn't it? Working sucks in so many ways. Working is also great in so many ways. It does a lot of things to help you regulate your life, to keep you doing what you need to be doing, to keep you focused on certain tasks. At least for me, it helps me to have a rhythm in my days. It helps me take, make better use of the time that I do have, the free time I have, because I have very little when I am working. It's also just really hard, and you kind of forget, especially if you do something like construction, where week after week you sort of build up, or your body builds up and your mind builds up this kind of immunity to the rigors of the work. And maybe that's psychological, maybe it's not actually building up that immunity, or you're not really being inured to it, but it feels like that. But when you haven't done it for a long time and then you get back into it, and suddenly, I mean, I was still waking up pretty early every morning, but now I'm getting up at 5:30, 5:45 every morning, and then you're doing strenuous things all day long. I'm tired. I'm very tired. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And in the fewest words, or actually the most words possible. I'm tired. It's kind of stressful again, but it's also in many ways kind of a good thing. There are things that I definitely enjoy about my job. There are many things that I don't enjoy about my job, but it's been an adjustment process getting back into the swing of things with work. And of course, I'm trying not to let that make the channels suffer, responding to you, being able to answer your questions, posting videos and all that. So we're still maintaining that. But I'm just curious if any of you have gotten back to work yet, and how that adjustment process has been, because, you know, I was still busy. I still always kept myself busy, but I was busy doing only things that I wanted to do pretty much. And now, as pretty much everyone in the world, when you're working, you have to do something that you're not necessarily wanting to do. Even if you're self-employed and it's an industry or a profession that you love or that you have passion for, you're still going to find yourself doing things that you don't want to do. You have responsibilities, you have to uphold certain things, and it's just a weird mindset you get in when you're not working. And I don't want to say that it makes you more selfish, because I don't think that's necessarily the case, but it definitely makes you more just focused on your own whims and desires, I guess, maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to say, but anyway, I've been adjusting to getting back to work. I just did a full week for the first time in a very long time, and there's no end in sight because we have so much to do. Everything's been backed up for weeks on end now, and now it's like the dam is broken and we are trying to catch up. And for the foreseeable future, I'm going to be very, very busy with work. So, like I said, I'm very curious to know if any of you are back to work, how that has been. Has the adjustment process been difficult for you? Has it been a nice thing to get back to work? Are you enjoying it? Let me know in the comments below. So, I'm back to work. That's kind of one step towards normalcy. Obviously, things aren't normal yet in the state of Washington. I know it varies state by state and country by country. We still have a lot of businesses that are shut down. Most businesses are still shut down. I don't know how sustainable that could be. I don't know how that can go on much longer. So you still can't go to a restaurant. You still can't go into a retail store, but I don't do that too much anyway. It's mostly just the grocery store, and that's still open. And depending on the grocery store you go to, it's pretty much normal, other than there's people wearing masks and gloves sometimes. But the one thing I have noticed, or there's several things I've noticed, where the levee is starting to break and there's this trickle that's becoming a torrent of people just getting kind of fed up and going about their business. Traffic. Traffic is back. And I don't really understand why or how, because like I said, most businesses are still closed. Most people are still not back to work. Most people, if they're working at all, are working from home. But the streets seem just as full as they had ever been before all of this happened. And it's kind of driving me crazy, because if there was one benefit to all of this nonsense, it was empty streets. And now that's no longer the case. And it's kind of irritating. And I'm just curious, why that is happening here, because like I said, things still aren't open, but everywhere I go now, there are people. I've also noticed just people walking around. There were quite a few more people out and about recreating during all of this because they had nothing else to do, but they were always kind of singular. They were keeping away from each other. Now it seems like I'm seeing groups of people wandering about. roving gangs of children on bicycles everywhere because they don't have to go to school. I'm definitely just noticing a lot more people out and about, and there seems to be less concern with being close to other people than there was maybe just a week or two ago. Also, I guess the fact that it's like 77 degrees here today, and it's supposedly been spring here for a while, but it hasn't been particularly warm or particularly dry, and it kind of is now. But I don't know, that's just little hints that I'm getting that things are slowly kind of maybe sort of returning to normal. What's it been like where you are? Let me know in the comments below. That's going to be my new catchphrase. I guess it's not a very original catchphrase. And as I mentioned, I just recorded my revisited episode for Peterson, My Mixture 965. It was Dunhill, My Mixture 965 when I originally recorded the review way back on October 16th, 2014. My God. It's kind of scary when you go back, you do a video like this, a revisited video, and so I want to go back and look at the original review, and then I see how long ago I posted that. We've been around a while, gang. It's kind of crazy. But I'm enjoying a little bit of Peterson My Mixture 965 right now. This blend, more than almost any other I think we've done in the Revisited series so far, there was definitely a change, in my opinion. I don't know how many of you saw the initial review of this, but I was very, very positive. But you have to bear in mind that that was very early on when I was really getting into the hobby for the first time and hadn't been exposed to a lot of different blends. I still like this, but you should watch the Revisited episode this Wednesday and see how my opinion has changed and why my opinion has changed. I think it's fascinating. All right, gang. It is time for your questions on hashtag askstuffandthings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings, and I will do my best to answer your question. Also, if you are a Patreon supporter, and thank you so much, you can not tweet to me on Patreon, you can write me a message on Patreon if you would like a question answered as well. This first one, though, comes from email. I just spit while speaking, and it is from Kyle. Kyle has 3 questions. I loved seeing your Rickenbacker and your Martin. Do you have any other guitars? So that's question number 1. Yes, I have a Fender Telecaster. It's like an American, I guess what you would formally call an American Standard, but it's the American Professional Telecaster in Butterscotch Blonde. It's cool. Maybe I'll do a video on that sometime too. Question 2, who is your favorite guitarist? I tried to think about this. And it's been kind of interesting because in the past couple episodes of Sunday Stuff and Things, I've been talking about trying to listen to music, and I was sort of picking some of that old classic music based on, oh, well, Jimmy Page is supposed to be like a great guitarist. You should listen to some of his stuff. David Gilmour is supposed to be one of the greatest guitarists. You should listen to some of this stuff, that stuff. I think that for me, I am not a huge fan, or I don't gravitate towards the guitarist. Someone who does a lot of soloing, who is very, showy isn't really the right word, but I tend to like music that doesn't have a lot of soloing in it, and I guess that's often the way that people determine whether or not a guitarist is, quote, great. I like really good rhythm playing. I was listening to a lot of Blur again recently, and I was actually really struck by how good Graham Coxon is. And he doesn't do a lot of showy solos or anything like that, but his chords are often very odd and interesting and unique, and the sounds that he gets with the effects that he uses and everything are really cool. But I don't know. I don't know if I could pick a guitarist and say they're my favorite. I think Johnny Greenwood is really good, but again, he's not classically like a great guitarist in the way that most people think of people like I said, David Gilmour, Jimmy Page, Who else do people think is great? Like Carlos Santana, Jimi Hendrix even. I don't really like Jimi Hendrix music that much. Sorry, I appreciate what it is. I understand why it's really good. Technically and everything, it just doesn't speak to me. It's just not my kind of thing. So I can't really pick a favorite guitarist. Sorry. Question 3. Were you playing Lucky by Radiohead in your Martin video, and how do you play it? That's actually 4 questions, Kyle. Actually, yes, I was playing Lucky, and lucky for you, I brought my Martin with me, and I can just show you really quick. Let's see. Bang my mic against that. Fairly in tune. It's very simple. This is something you could easily look up online too, by the way, Kyle. But the way I play it is E minor. Can you see my fingers? E minor goes to A minor. After A minor, you go to G. After G, you go to B minor. And then you do a little like lift up there. And then you go back to, how does it go? Here, let me play it. E minor. E minor. C. G. B minor again, and then E minor. Sorry about that. Let's get to the next question, shall we? Okay, this comes via Twitter. It is from Beth. Beth? There's a female viewer of Stuff and Things? Beth Capel or Capella? Beth Capella? Beth says, I started watching with my boyfriend in January. He's been watching for years. Well, thank you, Beth and your boyfriend. And we love Sunday Stuff and Things. Thank you again, Beth and your boyfriend. Have you and your fiance set a date? Are you involved in the planning? Hope you'll share some photos when the time comes. Hashtag askstuffandthings. We have not set a date yet. We are trying to figure that out. It will happen sometime in the future, probably when she's done with school. She's trying to do like a master's degree and everything, and that costs money. And the way that financial aid works and everything around here, if we were to combine our incomes, it would actually be much more expensive and prohibitively expensive for her to go to school. So we're kind of balancing that, but we're perfectly content to be living together. That's a big step that we took, and we're enjoying that quite a bit. So we'll let you know when the wedding planning starts occurring. Next, and I guess last, we didn't have a ton of questions this week. From Janko Percussion, at Janko Percussion, I see you have an iPhone 11 Pro. Do you have any other Apple products, and do you like the ecosystem? I've been looking at an iPhone and a MacBook Air for a while, but I'm not sure if I want to give away my Windows laptop. I do have an iPhone 11 Pro right here. I've had iPhones since the 3G, so I guess it was the second iPhone. I didn't have the original OG iPhone, but I've had one ever since then. I love iPhones. I do not have a Mac computer. I've never had a Mac computer. I have a PC that I built myself, and I also have AirPods, I guess. That's the other Apple product I have that I love. I absolutely love my AirPods. They're the original AirPods. I guess I, back in the day, owned iPods and such as well. But I like the Apple ecosystem. There are things that I don't like as much about them. Obviously, I have a PC. I just kind of prefer the more modular nature of a PC and the fact that I can upgrade things myself much more easily and everything. The operating system, I don't have a ton of experience on the Mac OS like desktop version. iOS is fine, works well. The one thing I do really appreciate about having an Apple phone anyway is the fact that since it is kind of a closed ecosystem, you don't have to worry about as much, I guess, garbage in the App Store. It's a little bit better policed. I mean, obviously there are horrible apps there, but as far as like spyware and things like that, you don't have to worry as much. And then also Apple seems to be much more guarded of their users' privacy than Android does or Google does. There have been several cases where the government has said, hey, we want access to this person's iPhone, and Apple has said, no, you can't have that. And I like that. I don't know what Apple is doing themselves with our personal information, but I don't know. I'm more creeped out by Google than I am by Apple. They're both kind of creepy, but Apple is slightly less creepy. So there you go. But gang, I think that's it. That's it for hashtag #AskStuffandThings. That's pretty much it for this edition of Sunday Stuff and Things. But before we go, it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters, the people who make this show go. We couldn't do it without you. I appreciate it very, very much. And anyone who supports the show, supports the channels at $25 or more on Patreon gets a special shout out every week. People like AJ Hoge, Ryan McFadin, MDoftheNorth, Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Cody Striegler, Ryan Stauffer, corbynborbyn, and Glenn. Thank you all very much for your support. It is much appreciated. And then also we have the Maniacs here, the crazy people who, for some reason, support the channels at $100 a month. I guess the reason ostensibly would be that they get to talk to me every 3 months on Skype. People like Peter Straub, our very good friend, and Bob Magee, our dependable, wonderful Bob Magee. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting the like thingy, the notification bell thingy too, sharing all the videos. Please stay tuned this Wednesday for the revisited episode for Peterson, My Mixture 965. Tune in to Stuff and Things Plays, my other channel, where I have gameplay and fun things like that. We are still doing Outer Wilds every Monday and Friday, and we are doing still Animal Crossing New Horizons every Wednesday. Until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a pleasant Sunday, Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.